Hello, 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 and welcome back to R&D with KD. I'm your host, Kalhiel Dillard. Today, I'm joined by Lewis Everk. Lewis is an amazing father, restaurant owner, and businessman here locally. Our topics today focus on growth, overcoming adversity, and running multiple restaurant businesses here in the Fresno area. I'm a former athlete, small business owner, and serial entrepreneur. The goal of the podcast is to inform and inspire entrepreneurs who are looking to get started but don't know how. Each week, I am going to highlight ordinary people in our communities who do extraordinary things. Before we jump in, a little bit about Lewis. Lewis has been a pretty big father figure in my life as well. Employed me for a pretty big period of time, and definitely has been a really big influence on my journey as a young entrepreneur, young promoter here in Fresno for a period of time. Really appreciate all the knowledge and value that Lewis has given me during our short time of knowing each other, and very fortunate to have him here on the podcast to share with you all some of his stories and experiences of being a restaurant nightclub owner here in Fresno. So definitely stay tuned for this episode. Lots of information and a lot to uncover and unfold. Lewis, you've been in the nightclub and restaurant industry for about 30 years now in Fresno. Has running restaurants and nightclubs always been what you want to do? What you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, I was born into it. My grandparents, my mother and father, they were all in the business. I mean, restaurants, nightclubs. As a young kid, I mean, we spent holidays in nightclubs. You know, the whole family would meet at the nightclubs and we'd hang out, and that's where we had our Christmases, our Thanksgivings, Easter in nightclubs. I mean, it's just how we grew up as kids, a big family, huge family. And so it was definitely something that's in my blood. And I've tried to shake it. It's a tough business. I've tried to delve into real estate and those other things in back in the early 2000s, but it's in my blood. I can't get rid of it. I love it.
Now, are you from Fresno, born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised here in Fresno. 47 years in this city, and I've just always wanted to bring Fresno things that I see elsewhere. Other things, you know, I've always wanted the best for Fresno. And so, this is my home. It's what I love to do.
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate for us? What was life growing up for you back in Fresno? Like growing up as a kid, what were your experiences like? Where'd you grow up, and how was that for you, your environment for you then?
Well, I grew up primarily. I mean, I went to Clovis High, and then went to Clark Intermediate, went to Marimani Elementary. Lived in Pinedale briefly with my stepfather and my mother. We lived in Pinedale for a while. We bounced around a little east side Fresno, and then kind of ended up in like a county island near the Clovis area. Went to a Christian school, started off at a Christian school, got into the public school system, and came up through the ranks there. Clovis High was probably one of the first times I really got a taste of the early part of my life, which was music. I was big into music, man. I had a rap group, a couple of rap groups, toured all around. We did Snoop Dogg, we did E40, we did Too Short, we did everybody who was big in the 90s, we were opening up for them, either me, myself as a solo artist or what. So a lot of people trip out that, you know, I was in the hip hop R&B scene as a producer and as a performer. And then from there, I started DJing for my grandparents at a nightclub they had. And I was 15 years old, and I was DJing for a different mix of people. Some liked country, some liked, you know, funk and R&B, some like the early beginnings of rap back then. And that's kind of, at that point, I knew, watching my grandparents in their restaurants, bars, and nightclubs, that I was hooked. It was something I just, you know, right there I knew this was going to be my life.
Dope. Can you share an element of how you were raised and how that has impacted your life today?
Well, I mean, my mother, super Bible Belt Christian woman. Like she's one of those people who, like, you know that when you go to her, you're not going to get what you want to hear. You're going to get what you need to hear. She's going to be one of those people that says, look, you're my son, I love you. But if I told you what was going to make you feel warm and fuzzy, then you're never going to learn from it. So it's like, it's a really conflicted thing when I talk to my mom. And I talk to her every single day. Even 47 years old, I still talk to my mom. I run everything past her. And I already know, before I pick up that phone, I know my mom is going to give me the real deal. And so that's how I was on one end. And my grandmother, who was a massive influence in my life, who passed away really quick from cancer, she was like a massive driving force. Like there was no wrong I could do by her. She along with my mom were like my biggest cheerleaders. No matter what happened in my life, they were there just pumping me up. There was no wrong that I could do. And I think that's probably the massive driving force that gave me confidence in anything I did, whether it was music, whether it was wrestling, whether it was business. They gave me that confidence. On the flip side of that, I had other family who was not the Christian Bible Belt, type of situation that showed me another side of life that I think has been beneficial for me to deal with some of the stuff that I deal with, because obviously restaurants, in particular nightlife, it's not a library. You are dealing with some crazy elements at times. I mean, Fresno, especially in recent years, has become extremely violent, extremely difficult to manage. So there's a lot of issues that maybe that side of my family taught me how to deal with those things. So I'm like a Tupac, like he knew right from wrong, whether he decided to do right or wrong. That was really on him and how he was feeling. On one side he would be super respectful, on the other side he would be super hard-headed. That's I'm kind of a mix of both of those people. So that's how I was brought up. I mean, started out at a Christian school, raised, like I said. That's the mix-up of who I am.
So what adversity or challenges did you face early on in life that kind of shaped, where you are at today?
Well, I was a young man. As I mentioned before, there was two sides of my family. And I think, for me, I was really big into music at the time, and music wasn't really paying the bills. And, I ended up having, a child at a young age. And I did some dumb things. As a young man, 17, 18 years old, I did some dumb things, and I ultimately paid the price for that. Kind of all my friends were doing the same stuff, but I just got caught for it, right? And I think through that adversity of trying to overcome for so many years after that, the problems that I caused for myself as a young man has followed me even to the years of being 47 years old. So it's been a long road to prove and reprove and continually prove myself that I'm a good person and that I've served my debt to society and that I've taken, I've taken the L. I realized the wrongs of my ways, and even to this day I learn new things. But I think that's probably been one of the toughest things is probably how I'm viewed because of things that I did when I was 17, 18 years old. That's probably been the biggest challenge for me professionally and personally.
So professionally, how do you overcome those, what the shit that people have to say about you? Because you still got to live, you still got to run your businesses. So how has that affected, the way you maneuver and operate and go about things? Like, do you just not give a fuck, or?
Look, I used to go and defend myself all the time. You can't defend yourself to everybody who has an opinion about who or what you do. I know my heart. I know what's inside of me. So at the end of the day, I have to rely on my convictions and the things that I hold true in my life. And no matter what people say about me, I know, and the people that matter to me, they know who I am. So I no longer sit there and fight those battles. If you want to think something about me, think something about me. People think I drink and party and do drugs all the time. I am the most square guy. I mean, you know I don't drink, but the world thinks that I drink. The people that follow my pages are, he's a club guy, or he's got restaurants and he's got all these things around him. Of course he does. It's like, no. The last thing I want at the end of my day is to be around a drunk person. Yeah, I mean, I don't. The haters serve a purpose. Yep. That's probably part of what fuels my passion is people that tell me that I can't, or people that say that, it's been said ever since the days of me owning my own places, that's not going to last. That's not going to work. That idea is dumb. That's not going to happen. And it's happened. I'm still standing. So It's the proof is in the pudding.
Did you always envision like this kind of lifestyle for you? Even though you've had some things happen in the back of your head, did you always feel like you were capable of doing and achieving a lot more than what you were doing previously?
Well, I mean, I wanted to be a rapper, first of all. I wanted to be, I wanted to be the...
How does this compare to being a rapper?
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same life, I guess. I mean, it's like that rock star thing. But no, I mean, my first passion was always music. I mean, all my tattoos, everything that I have I love music. Music is a big part of my life as far as if I'm in a good mood, a bad mood, an ambitious mood, a mischievous mood. Music is my passion. But I've also found that creating businesses and creating ideas or creating promotions as a promoter, when I came up just as a promoter, I mean, I spent from probably 1998 till 2005 strictly as a promoter and learning what motivated people to come out. I learned the art of, well, I say selling shit on a stick. We're in Fresno, I get this a lot. Well, this is in Vegas. Well, I know it's clearly not Vegas. Well, I don't pay covers in Fresno. We're not going to pay a cover charge to get into business. Been charging cover charge for nearly 25 years. I have a passion for creating something, and 9 times out of 10, my ideas come from taking a shower. I just love sitting in the shower, letting the water fall on my face, and just come up with these ideas, whether it be a promotion or something like I had a big party called the W that lasted 5 or 6 years. It was a massive success. I love creating. I love there's a high that I get when I come up with an idea and then put it out there and it actually works. Whether it's a one-night deal or whether it's a restaurant concept or whether it's consulting for somebody else or whether it's giving my opinions and ideas for friends of mine like you to help your business. I love creating, man. That's my other passion. Creating.
Talk to us a little bit about your creative process. Like, how do you continuously create? Like, some might say, Lewis might be outdated for nightlife, but here you are still doing it. How do you continuously move with the times so you're able to create successful businesses, restaurants, and so forth?
It's a big copycat business, and I think a lot of it, to truth be told, I mean, you'll ask anybody who's successful in the restaurant business. I mean, if you see, Popeyes came out with their big chicken sandwich. Everybody now, including McDonald's and everybody else, has a crispy chicken sandwich. So there's not a lot of originality in the restaurant nightlife space. It's just knowing your market, knowing what's gonna hit. You have to. What I tell people is I like to travel. Traveling is multifaceted thing in my life. Travel is a healing process. Travel is a creative process. Travel is a meditation process for me. So when I travel, I get a lot of these ideas. And so when I'm in a place like Miami, or when I'm in a place like San Diego, or I'm in a place like Barcelona or Hawaii, I see things and I'm like, would this work in Fresno? Would this be something that Fresno would enjoy? And so I always bring a piece of that, or maybe I'll combine a couple pieces of that, and then I'll Fresnoize it. I'll make it Fresno proof and mold it to what I know will motivate Fresno. And I've been very fortunate to, over the past however many years I've been as marketing and promoting, to be fortunate that these things actually work. Maybe it's a lack of options and maybe I'm not that great, or maybe it's just, they say, if you can have a market like Fresno and it'll work in Fresno, you can make that work anywhere.
What do you think our market is specifically looking for here in Fresno, or what do you think the market may need to continue? Safety?
Safety.
Absolutely.
Safety. And I think that's not just Fresno. I think that's anywhere. I mean, you look at the problems with mass shootings and you look at, people, just random acts of violence and just people, the society deteriorating and becoming more violent. I think safety is the number one priority for people in Fresno. I've seen the decline of feeling safe when you're out in Fresno. I mean, we've had shootings at a Ruth's Chris. We've had shootings at a Bolero where someone was murdered. We've had 3 people shot in Clovis, 2 were murdered. One was a good friend of mine, was a DJ who, thank God, he survived. So I think top of mind for people going out in Fresno is safety. And I think for me, with what I'm doing, I mean, when you walk in my place now, not because we have those types of violent things happening, but to deter those things from happening, we have ID scanners where first you walk in, you get your ID scanned. If your ID doesn't scan, no entrance. Second, you're getting a pat down. Then you're walking through a full body, TSA style magnetometer, and then bag checks, purse checks, and then finally you're allowed entrance to the venue. Mm-hmm. It's sad that it's come to that, but I think that's the trend. I think that's the way it's going to be trending, just for the fear of mass shootings or fear of just, gangs or whatever it may be. I think that's the number one thing. Number two, people are going to be really budget conscious. As prices have gone through the roof, people are looking for a deal. The thing about nightlife is like you never really you're not going to go to Vegas and go to the place that's got a 2-for-1 coupon to get in. It's just not a cool thing. So you have to find clever ways of discounting and marketing. And I think that we along with my team and my own thoughts, I think we've come up with clever ideas to do that. So I think people are looking for a deal. And then three, people are looking to get away from their everyday reality. They're looking to get away from their job or their quarrels or beefs with anybody. They just want to go out and enjoy themselves. So outside of going to Vegas or going to Miami or something like that, I think we provide that type of environment for them.
Now, you've been in this business for over 30 years now here in Fresno, providing all different kinds of experiences. Let's talk about some of the restaurant ventures that you've been in recently. I know you've had HCK, Hide and Vine, Lux. Let's talk about the creative process.
Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo as well. Hugo, if you haven't had Hugo, go ahead, get you. This one is the Blue Dream. My personal favorite is the Black Magic. Black Magic is where it's at. I wonder why.
Yeah, no doubt. HCK was kind of birthed out of a place where there was a place called Aquashee, who a good friend of mine, Craig Dixon, who's passed away now, great friend of mine. He had this place, and I had done some promotions there. And after that business had closed, I was just sitting in the shower going, hey, what could I do with this place if I did something? And I was like, well, I'm gonna make a phone call to a buddy of mine named Tommy. Tommy Feeling's a good buddy of mine. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a place here, man. Would you want to back it? Would you want to come into it and be my partner? He said, yeah, let me think about it. Then I reached out to another buddy who I've done promotions at one of his businesses, my buddy Jesse over at Salsa's. And I said, hey, man, got an idea. I need a guy like you to run with me and let's do this together. And literally, from the idea of that, HCK was born in a matter of like 3 days. I think we were signing a lease within 2 weeks. So HCK had a great run. It was a cool, fun place. Shortly after, my buddy Tommy, he's like, man, I've done a good job with this thing. Like, you paid back the investment. He's like, but I'm thinking about, doing something different. You want to cash me out? Okay. Cashed him out. He thanked me for cashing him out. I thanked him for being a part, because without him, that wouldn't have happened. And then HCK was doing well, and I decided, a lot of people think that all those changes, the changes were not for any other reason than I just wanted to try something different. People thought that we were losing money, or it was, there was problems and we had to close it down and change it. I changed those because it's something I wanted to do. So I had a conversation with my other partner, Jesse, and said, you know what, I kind of want to do something and take this a different direction. I appreciate everything that you've done with me, and, let's figure out something to take care of you, and I'm going to do this next part on my own. And he was super happy for me, was like, great. He had some other ideas. He's built some other restaurants, so he did that. And so then I took over, and then I had this concept, Hide and Vine. And it was just, I wanted to find a place like my grandparents had in the 70s and 80s that really did a good job with having a strong restaurant and then a super good like nightlife after the restaurant. And so Hide and Vine was like the perfect meeting of both of those. I mean, you'd be there at like 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and it would be a totally different crowd enjoying a great steak. We had great chefs. We had great steaks, great cocktails. And then at 10 o'clock, it would start transitioning over more to the nightlife feel. And we were killing it. The nightlife was taking off wild. And I was actually on like a mini start of my honeymoon. I was out in Punta Cana, out in Dominican Republic. I wake up in the morning and grab my phone as I usually do. And when I wake up and I looked and I saw a lawsuit, trademark infringement for Hide and Vine, big company, SBE out of LA. They have a bunch of big properties, and they said that I was infringing on their restaurant name. And I was like, yeah, how many times did I jump in an Uber to go to Hyde and Sunset and end up in Fresno at Hide and Vine, you know? And so it bummed me out. So I was thinking, okay, you know, we could probably overcome this. And this is probably the best thing that I had done up to that point. And a lengthy battle, it brought me up a couple $100,000, and I finally threw in the towel. I mean, this company knew that I already had my trademark. They even admitted that there was no way that they could probably win the case, but they were going to run me out of money before it got to that point. So I had to change the name, and there came in Lux. So again, it was the most business I've ever had in that location. It wasn't a lack of the business. It was now this lawsuit was coming in, and I had to change it up. So that was Lux. In between Hide and Vine and Lux, I really lost a lot of, it really took the wind out of my sails because how hard I worked to get Hide and Vine going. Then Lux came in, and Lux was just kind of an afterthought. Lewis Lux was my former alter ego when I was a
Is that your DJ name?
Well, rapper, DJ. It was Lewis Lux. I mean, you can find me on iTunes. Lewis Lux. But yeah, changed it to Lux, and I liked what Lux was. It was a great thing. We focused a lot more on live entertainment aspects of it, the brunches and the happy hours and dinners and things like that. But there was a lot lost when I changed it because Hide and Vine had only been open for, I want to say, 6 months before I had to come in and chop it. So it really hurt a lot when that happened financially and a heartbreak to myself. So yeah, that's what happened there.
Where did Hugo come in, in fruition with all this going on?
So just like I said, traveling. At the time, Fresno didn't have many options for people that wanted to be health conscious and quick about it. We're kind of like the fast, casual, healthy place to grab salads, juices, avocado toast, acai bowls, cold pressed juices.
How many locations do you currently have around town?
We have 3, soon to be 4. We're opening up another one, top secret. But yeah, we have 3 right now. We have Milburn and Herndon, Champlain and Perrin, and Clovis and Fowler. Or excuse me, Herndon and Fowler and Clovis. So Hugo was kind of brought about, again, with my travels. I go to places and you can get great acai bowls and smoothies. You go to a different place and get a great salad. So I decided to combine those two because I could see already that juice bars alone by themselves, they're not sustainable. If you own those or you're working, if you own just strictly a juice bar, it's very limited. It's not really a meal. It's more of a lifestyle addition. You want to get, like the juices, you're going to drink this and it's going to put those macronutrients right into your bloodstream instantaneously. But if you're hungry, that's why I wanted the salad part of it. So we really combined those two things, and I haven't really seen it done in many other places. And so that idea I had for 5 years before we actually started it.
When did the first one come about?
2018.
Oh, okay. So still pretty.
Yeah, it's a new brand. I mean, it's a tough brand, especially now with our costs being, to get plastic bottles, to get plastic cups, to get stickers, to get all the raw ingredients that we do, especially after the pandemic. There's just a big shortage of supplies, which has caused our costs to go up probably 30 to 40%. And we've only passed on a small amount of that to the consumer because, we don't want to sticker shock them. It's unfortunate that eating healthy is so expensive than eating crappy. But that's how that came about, man. I found a need. The thing about me, I'm diabetic. You can see right here, I wear a CGM right here. It monitors my glucose and sends it to my cell phone. My youngest son, he's got egg allergies, so he's very limited as to what he can eat. And so what I've learned about the Hugo brand is that there's a lot of people, and I didn't anticipate this. I thought it was just people that wanted to go to the gym and eat healthy. But it's a lot of people that are cancer, a lot of people that have autoimmune disorders, a lot of people that have food allergies, whether it be gluten or egg or any other type of problem with what they eat. Those are some of the things that really caught me off guard, is hearing those stories and meeting those people and them coming every day to support us. You know, if I would have built taquerias, I probably would have been a lot well off financially, but it's a tough brand to manage. There's a lot of moving parts, and I love my team. I love what we do. And I wish that we could get more people in Fresno to embrace that.
Absolutely. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing or have faced in your business, your role right now, or previously? Could be COVID, and how'd you tackle that? I know COVID for the restaurant nightclub industry was hard. How'd you overcome, COVID?
Well, I mean, it was a tough deal because, I haven't been alive during another pandemic, and I don't think most people have been. And so when that hit, it was really kind of, hey, we're taking a 2-week, setback. We're going to roll things back 2 weeks. And we obviously know how that panned out. So it was tough because at that time I just opened 2 new places. I made a massive investment at Vixen, and then I made a massive investment with getting 2 other Hugo brands going, locations going, and 2 months open, shut down. And that shutdown just kept going and kept going and kept going.
How did you feel when shit was just shut down? Did you think like, oh shit,
Panic.
what am I going to do? Yeah.
Panic.
Exactly.
I think a lot of us panicked. Especially when you invest that type, when you open up a new hotspot like Vixen, you're banking on those first 6 months, that first year, because that's when it's going to hit super hard. And when you're open for 2 months and you lose that, it's like, oh shit.
Yep.
What am I going to do? So the good thing about that was I wasn't alone. It was everybody. And so what I did personally during the COVID thing is I tried to get restaurateurs together. I tried to get people together so we could put some common sense things in place to at least allow not just me, but my staff and the people that work for us a living. Because at that time, they shut everything down and we had no way to support ourselves. And so I spearheaded, along with a couple of the great people here locally, we spearheaded a massive thing to get, we had 26,000 people follow us on a Facebook group to open Fresno County safely. We didn't want to be haphazardly just opening things because we didn't understand COVID at the time. And I'll say this, I was the first person to wear a mask. I'm diabetic, not the most healthy guy in the world. I've had cancer. I've had a full thyroidectomy where they've taken my thyroid out. So I was concerned deeply about getting it. I didn't know what it was, and I did get it. It kicked my ass. Put me and a good friend of mine, Chris Milton, it put us down. We got at the same time, same place. We were enjoying ourselves for our 4th of July, and someone that came over that had it, knew they had it. Just didn't think it was that big of a deal. We both got it. We were down for 3 weeks. So it's not like I wasn't taking it serious. It was all very scary then. But I couldn't understand the hypocrisy in why some businesses could be open to support themselves when we couldn't. Salons, barbers, restaurant people. So I wasn't fighting a system for the sake of fighting people. I was fighting because how else were we going to feed ourselves? And so that's what COVID did to us. And even now, the lasting impacts of COVID, I think people just don't realize that it's still hitting us. There's still a great segment of people that won't come out of their house. And that's okay for them. I don't have an opinion. If you want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. If you're Republican or a Democrat or you like chocolate chip or mint chocolate chip, that's none of my business. To each his own. But we're still facing, with the inflation, like they gave out all this money. Someone's going to have to pay for this money. And so you're seeing a lot of things happen with the government. Now they're imposing some stuff with all restaurants and bars. They're really going after restaurants and bars. As of the 31st of this month, every single person that works in a restaurant and bar that either serves alcohol or as a bartender, or as a server who serves it, or as a person who checks an ID or a manager of that establishment has to now be certified by the state of California, pay a fee, go through a training course, which you have to pay for, every single person. Or the first fine is a 10-day suspension.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know those things.
Business closed, 10 days.
10 days. If you were working for me and you were checking an ID as a security guard, or you were working for me as a bartender or working for me as a server and you served alcohol, if you weren't certified, if you're not certified, you can't work there. And if we did have you work there and were to be, checked upon by these agencies, we would face a 10-day suspension of our business.
Now, let's talk about some of the challenges that business owners face that the public just doesn't see, like how hard it is to operate a restaurant or a nightclub.
Well, I think the biggest two things that stick out in my mind. I've been in restaurants and bars since a kid, whether I'm watching my grandparents, my parents. People don't understand that the city dictates who can be open to what time. The state of California issues you a liquor license. That's good from 6 a.m. till 2 a.m. as of now. 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. State of California says, here's your liquor license. They don't care about the city ordinances so much as they care about the individual who's licensed. But the city, whatever city that may be, they give you what's called a conditional use permit, which dictates when you can open, when you can close, what you can serve, how you can serve it. So for me, Vixen has to be closed earlier than my neighbor that's right next to me. They can stay open till 2. I have to close a little bit earlier. Why? Because the city of Fresno says so. Number 2, not so much anymore, but in the years of past, for people to dance, it was illegal for people to dance unless you had a dance permit. So you have
What year was this?
I'm talking like 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
They've been twerking in Fresno for more.
But that's a thing. It's a thing. You're absolutely right. But you had to obtain a dance permit. Mm-hmm. Then they did away with that. And now it's a classification. You're either classified as a restaurant or a bar and tavern or a nightclub. So there was this divide that's kind of basically Shaw Avenue. Mm-hmm. There was really, for a long time, nobody really permitted to dance on the north side of Shaw. For whatever reason, that's the city's deal. It's what they were pushing. The city really wants everybody in Fresno to only party and dance in downtown Fresno. They really don't advocate for it much on the north end of town. For whatever reason, that's it. So those are the two biggest things, I think, the biggest hurdles that restaurants or nightlife has. I go into the airport, and I travel a lot. I love to travel, so I'm in the airport, and I hear in the airport, loudspeaker comes on. Fresno has a vibrant nightlife, and I'm wondering where. Like, where is the vibrant nightlife? Tower, they're doing a big job out there in Tower. I mean, I've walked out in Tower and I've seen a massive showing of people in Tower. So maybe that's where it is. But the city, the police, they decide where these things happen. For me, I choose to have my businesses on the north end. I've had businesses all over the city of Fresno, but I choose to have it on the north end. It's where I live. It's where I work. I would like to have those things where I'm at. So yeah, it's those are the biggest things. I mean, I've had so many people go, dude, why don't you guys stay open till 2? I'm like, I never thought of that. It's like I would love to be open till 2, but I can't. My hands are tied. So just to open a restaurant, you have to take the expense of a liquor license, which could be anywhere from $20,000 on up to $75,000 just to get the liquor license. Then you have to spend about $15,000 to the city of Fresno just to apply to have the conditional use permit to operate that. There's no guarantee. Mm-hmm. So when you pay that money, there's no guarantee you're going to get that conditional use permit. So what you'll get is either denied, or you'll get a modification, or they'll give you exactly what you asked for, which doesn't happen that often. I'm hoping that the city of Fresno becomes what they say they want to be and become more business friendly to allow for more things for people to do. I think that a lot of the city's problems is just a lack of things to do. Mm-hmm. When you have nothing else to do, what do? Do dumb shit. And so I think that, Fresno being centrally located in Central California, being the midpoint of the state, should be as Dallas is to the country. It's like bigger companies, they meet in Dallas because it's halfway. Well, they should be meeting in Fresno. Fresno should be doing a massive convention business, a massive meeting business. We should be that meeting point for North and South California.
Trade shows, concerts, everything.
We should embrace that. We should be attacking that. There should be people in the city that are actively going after those things, because that would really stimulate our economy.
And I know you are involved in some other things locally around town that have been great for the community. I know you've DJ'd or brought Boots in the Park to town a few times or been involved with that. What are some things that other entrepreneurs or people in the restaurant nightclub space can do to advocate the city, police, of local governments to create better policies that enhance the nightlife experience safely for the people in Fresno?
Well, I didn't bring Boots in the Park. A good friend of mine who is the brains behind that. I've support him. I've worked with him. I'm actually DJing some big shows for him in San Diego and in Tempe, Arizona. But I push it like it's my own, and I give everything I can to, because I think it's a great thing. It's a great thing for the city, just for, especially, post-COVID, people getting out again and being in an outdoor space where it's a little bit more, COVID friendly, or if people are still concerned with that, to be out in open space. I also seen friends of mine that run Grizzly Fest, and the trials and tribulations they had to go through to get that off the ground. I mean, you're talking years of planning. You're talking a massive investment. You're talking hours of sleepless nights and sleepless days to put on these shows, to coordinate vendors and deal with artists and management contracts and all. I mean, I've done those types of shows. I've done concerts my whole life, and it's a tough deal. It's a big gamble. It's a big risk, but it's unfortunate that we don't have more things like that. There's a lot of politics that come into play when people just don't understand. The average person doesn't understand what goes into those types of events. And they're good. They're good. I mean, you go to any other city, you see nightclubs, restaurants, concerts. I will say Fresno. You have to act better. You have to be better. Because that's where the policing comes in. Policing for me is, I respect what they have to deal with. I do. I see both sides. I appreciate these things from a policing standpoint. But I also know that we have to become more friendly to allowing these things to happen. So I think it's really a combination of policing and the city powers and the people that make these decisions or allow the approval or denial of these things to really come together and maybe work with the people that really understand the common goal. The common goal, number one, is public safety.
Absolutely.
If you came to my business, I want to make sure that I provide a safe place for you. I want to make sure that when you come, you're just here to let me take care of all the other stuff. I don't need you to talk to anybody, or I need you just to come and have a good time. I think the city needs to be more in tune or aware of the people that are actually trying to do that, and allow them a little bit more room to do these things. Because, there's a lot of people that may want to be in this business, that may want to get into nightlife or do restaurants or bars or taverns or what have you, that don't fully understand that. And that's what gives the rest of us a bad look. That's what gives the rest of us these issues, because from the policing standpoint, they all have someone to answer to. Sergeant's got to answer to the captain. Captain's got to answer to, her people, the chief of police, his or her chief of police. They all have someone to answer to. So fully understandable. But we have to find a way, because I feel like the more we pull back on Fresno realizing its potential, that athletes, clothing designers, nightlife, entertainment, we have to realize that we don't have to go to LA to be that. We don't have to go to Miami to be that. We don't have to go to New York to be that. We could be that right here.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem, is that everybody thinks you can't do it in Fresno. You got to leave Fresno to do it. And some of that is, Fresno's been that way for the longest time, difficult to deal with. You see some change, but it's kind of slow.
Why do you continuously advocate here if you've been here a while and it's worked out for you somewhat, but why do you continue to advocate here for the necessary changes?
It's my home. Born and raised here. I live footsteps away from my businesses. I have something vested here. This is where my kids live, my family lives. This is everything. I'm not out here, I don't advocate Vegas. I don't advocate Miami. I don't advocate San Diego. I advocate Fresno. And I think that misunderstanding, for whatever reason, I think I'm misunderstood because the passion I have. I think my passion gets in the way and labels me an asshole. My passion labels me a know-it-all. My passion labels me a difficult person. But the passion is the same passion that, say, the mayor has for the city, the city councilmen have for the city, the chief of police has for the city. I have the same passion, but it's misunderstood. Why? Because I can be labeled some club guy. Why? I can be labeled some guy that's been in trouble with the law as a young man. That's the problem. Aren't I the guy that policing should say, this guy, he was a fuck up as a young man. Look at what he's doing for himself now. I encourage anybody to find something that I'm doing wrong. Tell me. As a legal standpoint, like a criminal standpoint, find something. You come to my house, you can come to my business, you can hang out with me all day, you can pull the hair follicle out of my head and test it. Plain and simple. And that's kind of what we were saying earlier, is about, overcoming those things. Those are the things I have to overcome, rightfully so. But second chances is why I'm still standing.
Absolutely.
And second chances is what I give to many people. Third chances, fourth chances,
you
fifth
fired me
chances.
a couple times.
And I'll fire you again, but I love you. You come to my house, we could have dinner, you could come to my birthday party, but I love you.
Absolutely.
And that tough love is what worked for me, and what I think will work for anybody. Is my passion is really misunderstood because I care too much. People think I don't care at all. The problem is I care too much. Sometimes I tell myself, you just have to care less, Lewis. Just care less, and your life will be so much simpler. But I can't. I can't stop caring because I want the best for people.
Absolutely. And every time I've been around you personally, outside of a work setting or even within the work setting, it's always been that passion that's driven the whole environment around us. And when that passion, or whenever you're not there, it's a whole different feeling, a whole different mood around. So I definitely understand the passion and love that you have for the people you not only work with, but also the community and city. There's been a ton of people who've had, life-changing opportunities that have been, whether it's been a job that you've created. So creating jobs within the community, having opportunities for people. And even myself, one of the reasons why you're on the pod is because how influential you've been to my life, with me only knowing you like 2-3 years. So
here's the thing. I only invest my time where what I say is absorbed. And so when I can see that you're soaking up what I'm telling you, I'm going to pour as much as I can into you. Because if you're not listening to me, I'm going to stop talking to you.
And that's real.
I'm going to stop talking, and then I'm going to distance myself from you, and then I'm going to watch what you do and then reevaluate if you need to be with me or not. And you know what? Whether it's my kids or whether it's people like yourself that I care about greatly, you can only beg for them to be great so many times before they don't give themselves the benefit of the doubt for being great. And for me, I can only go so far. And so when I see that someone is not reciprocating that investment, then that's where it stops. But that's the thing, is that misunderstanding. That's probably, and you know what? And I will say, I do talk to people wrong. I do come off as arrogant. I do come off as a know-it-all. I do, and that's my bad. That's my kryptonite. That's, along with anxiety and being overweight and trying to figure out how my diabetes works with no thyroid and the different medications I take. My kryptonite, what fucks me up personally, is the way I talk to people that I care about the most. So it's just a terrible thing. If I'm coming out of pocket with someone, it's because I care about them. And it's just, I wish I could overcome that. I wish there was a better way for me to understand that, and I'm trying, but I really do want the best for people, and I want the best for the city, and I want the best for myself. It's not just about, me. I want to see everybody that works for me. The people that work for me, with me, that have been there from day one, I want to see those people become whatever they want to be. So when I'm talking to my staff and we're having a staff meeting, it's not so much about, do you understand the alcohol? Do you understand how to use the computer system? It's more about, are you good as an individual? Do you understand what it takes to be what you want to be. So if you're working for me and you're working at Hugo and your job is you want to be a teacher, or your job is you want to become a lawyer, or you want to be a counselor, or whatever it may be, I want to make sure that you're taking the steps to achieve that. I want to make sure that I'm there to be a resource to help you, because when you take a guy like me who went from the mud to, I say, a millionaire, is that I don't want you to have to go through that. And I think, taking advice from good people, when you're a young kid, it's a simple analogy. Your parents say, honey, don't touch that stove. It's hot. You're going to burn yourself. What's the first thing that people do?
Go run and touch it.
They go run and touch it. But in my old age now, if you told me, hey man, real estate, because you know real estate, I would take your advice and I'm not going to touch the hot stove. I'm thank you. Thank you for telling me that, because now I don't have to take that same loss that you might have taken from experience. And that's what I try to tell the people around me, because really you're only strong as the people around you. So I want everybody around me to be just as strong. And again, the misunderstanding of Lewis Everk and my passion. So that's for anybody watching or anybody wondering, why I do what I do. Some of it's frustration and tired. I mean, I work all the time. I never sleep. I sleep maybe 4 hours a night, and that's just not enough. But I feel like there's a clock that's ticking. Mm-hmm. For maybe the wasted time, maybe the bullshit that I did when I was a young man, I feel like there's this clock and it's ticking. And I want to do as much as I can to leave something for my kids and my family when I'm gone.
What was or have you had your I've made it moment?
No.
Not yet?
Not even close. This is the beginning. I mean, I don't
exciting.
feel that I've done anything. I feel like it's just beginning. And I think that for people that have the ambition that I may have, you can't ever feel comfortable or complacent with where you're at, because someone is trying to take that every day.
Every day. There's
a young buck trying to take that. And I welcome it. I met with a kid last night. He's been hitting me up nonstop. And we finally met in person, and I said, look, man, the reason why we're talking is because you've been persistent. That's the difference in success or failure, is the persistence. This kid's been on me. And so we chatted it up last night. We talked, and I just let him know, look, I admire what you're doing. I don't know how it's all going to pan out for you and me in the future, but I like your persistence, because that's the key. I think that's where people, when anything becomes like work, they want to give up, and that's when you have to turn it up.
Did you have any mentors or positive influences in your life that you can attribute some of your success to? I
mean, here locally, when I first got my little start in 1998, Steve Bisla, he's the owner of the Standard. Back then, he had a place called On the Rocks. And I was a manager over at Spoons across the street, now where BJ's and Cheesecake are. And the funny thing was I had a lot of my sister and my cousins. There was like 7 or 8 of them. They're all pretty girls, and they're all hanging around me, and it's like, this is my family. And I'm like, hey, you guys want to go to this bar tonight? So we go to the bar, and I'm sure that Steve recognized at the time, this guy always has a bunch of girls around him. It's my cousins and my sister. But that in this world, in promoting, that attracts more. And so it started off as, hey, you come and you bring a group of people, I'll take care of your drinks tonight. Then it said, I'll take care of your bottle tonight. Then, okay, I'll give you $100 and I'll take care. So that's how I got started in like the promoting. I got my first, taste of promoting was the opportunity that Steve Bisla gave me in 1998. And then from there, it blossomed into a company that I had with a buddy called A-List Promotions. And we started doing a lot of the after parties and stuff for Chuck Liddell here locally. And that blew up too. And so that kind of ramped it into there. So Steve was a massive influence in my life then. Then, later years on, he had reached out to me, and he was opening up the Standard, and I took like a management role and marketing role, and I rocked with him on the Standard for a while. So he was a big influence, and he still is a great friend of mine. There's a lot of people out there that would like to think there's this big beef between Vixen and Standard, and maybe at one time there was. But again, it's passion. Mm-hmm. He's passionate. Absolutely. He's passionate. I'm passionate.
Is that something you two understand? Is the passion that you both collectively share? It's
different. Mm-hmm. Steve is a very calm, reserved person. I'm more animated, more, quick fire than Steve. But Steve, you got to look at something. The guy's been in the business for how many years? That is the true testament of a good business person in their respective field, is the longevity of it. He's learned to recreate himself. I mean, me recreating HCK, Hyde and Vine, and Lux was a Steve Bisla playbook. So aside from that, we're good. I love Steve like family. I love Raj. We've had our disagreements, and they've been big, but it is what it is. There's a competition is what breeds greatness.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So having them right next door, me next door, we've learned that we've got this nice little ecosystem now that works for us. How it ends up is yet to be determined, but that's one. Two, there's a guy named David Grutman. He's a Miami guy, worked his way from a bartender to owning hotel brands, the biggest nightclubs in Miami, and he's a great inspiration to me. Not that we kick it or I talk to him often. I think I've messaged him one time on Instagram and he responded back, but I've been to most of his properties. He's got great relationships like Pharrell. He's doing stuff with Pharrell. He's doing stuff with the Nelk Boys. But David Grutman has just been a massive inspiration to see, like, you can start as a bartender in this business and become a multi-millionaire mogul in the city of Miami. So that's another guy that I really draw a lot of inspiration. As a young man, I drew inspiration from, my family's business. I mean, they had 5, 6, 7, 8 restaurants, bars, and nightclubs between the family, where, I was a busser, I was a dishwasher, I was, a DJ, I was a bar back, I was all these things. So that's kind of my inspirations. My grandfather, Ike Sanchez, who owned Dos Amigos, along with my grandmother, that one out in Pinedale, they just tore it down. There's a vacant lot there now, one in Mission Village, and they had some out in Firebaugh. Those are my first inspirations. Really, mentors was just watching what they did. A lot that I learned from family was watching what they did wrong. What they did right was great, but seeing the mistakes they made automatically programmed to me not to make those same mistakes. So you're saying in the making, I mean, I was probably 8, 9, 10, 11 years old when I first got my first taste of that. So those were my greatest inspirations.
Now, you said you're just getting started as far as you don't think you've had your I've made it moment. What's keeping you passionate about starting new business ventures or enhancing the ones you currently have?
I'm not competing with Steve Bisla. I'm not competing with anybody else here in town. I'm competing with myself. So it's just that constant something inside who I am to want to keep going. And I think that the primary focus or the primary driving force is my sons. Everk Hospitality Group is just that, my Everk Boys. It's taking a name that maybe other people have made bad or made good, taking the name that I personally damaged as a young man and trying to reincarnate that name to be something good, synonymous with other big family names here in town. It's mainly for my boys. It's to pass it on to my 3 sons. And, I want for them to be a part of it. But if they're not, I'm not, whatever path they take. I'd probably discourage them from this business because it's a trying business. It's not the funnest business to be in. It's very trying. But, I think that's part of the driving force. We're bringing on another place called The Woodward. It's upscale, sports lounge, doing breakfast brunch 7 days a week. I think that's an underserved market where we are in North Fresno is breakfast. I want to do just a kick-ass, delicious, and fun breakfast place and be really food forward on this one.
Absolutely. Now, that's really exciting. When's that one plan on opening?
I mean, I can say 6 months, but we'll see. We'll see. And because I've said it already, there's people that want to stop it.
Yep.
And I debated with myself whether I announced it or not. Because probably if I was quiet and did it quietly, I would receive less opposition. But I'd rather see the haters come straight to the top and show their face so I know what I'm up against. Because it's going to be there. And I'm not saying like people that are a jealousy thing or, Lewis is dumb, I don't like him. I'm talking about the powers that be that think that for whatever reason I'm misunderstood.
Absolutely. Now, fast forward in here a little bit. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
That I cared.
Cared about what?
Well, that I cared to create something generational for my family. Like if you look at, and I'm not saying by any means am I a Rockefeller, even know what that is, or some of these big iconic names in the American history of families that have, what are some other, help me with some other big family names. There's like Rockefeller.
Don't forget that one.
Who? Dillard. There you go.
Dillard.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? Someone along those family lines had to say, look, come hell or high water, I'm going to change the course of my family for generations to come. Can I do it? It's yet to be determined, but that's my thing, what I want to be remembered for, that I left more for my family and my kids' kids and their kids' kids than I had before that. That's my thing, is I want my boys and whatever family they choose to carry past that to be okay.
If you could turn back the time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what's one thing that you tell him?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but you can't give up. And I probably would have said, maybe don't do some of those things that got you in trouble. But the truth is, I talked to my mom right before I got here. And I said, should I talk about that? She said, that's your story. That's who you are. And I think about it now, and I've said it before, maybe not so much of an open forum, but I would not change the trajectory of my life. From a young man to the current, what happened to me had to happen to mold me into who I am. And good or bad or indifferent, love me, hate me, it's who I am, and I wouldn't change a thing about my 18-year-old self. I would just say it's going to be tough, and buckle down, be ready, because it's going to be a fight.
Absolutely. That's powerful. Lewis, where can the audience connect with you and find more about you at?
Well, any one of the businesses. There's The Vixen on Instagram. There's Hugo Eats. And then there's my personal Instagram, which is Lewis Everk on Instagram, LEWISEVERK.
And before we close out, is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience or that we missed or didn't touch on as well?
No. I don't. I hope that maybe there's someone out there that might say, hey, you know what? This guy started from nothing. This guy started with no money. He grew up, with not a lot of money in a family that just gave him $1 million to start a business. I want people to know that what I said in the very beginning, that cheesy cliche of you can be whatever you want to be. I want someone to realize, whether they're sitting in a jail cell, whether they're sitting in a rich, wealthy North Fresno family, no matter where you're at, you can really make it happen. Absolutely. You can really be what you want to be. You just have to put in the work.
That's powerful. Well, Lewis, man, I really appreciate you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Really exciting stuff, and I'm glad to have such a good influence and positive role model in my life as you've been to me, man. So I really appreciate you, and thank you for being here.
Love you, brother.
Perfect. Love you too, man.